Today I have something quite sad to talk about, and that is a very well-known vegan who has decided to live ancestrally and starts paying people to kill animals with what sounds like the intention to kill animals herself in the possibly near future. This is always shocking to me in many ways, but in some ways not, because it is a very strong culture that our world mostly operates under, the culture of carnism, the culture of animals are here for us to use, to breed, to eat if we want. And we rarely think about things from the victim's point of view anywhere near as much as they should be thought of. And that is definitely what I see has happened in this case. And this case is a little closer to me than a lot of ex-vegans, because this is a person who I believe went vegan. She was sort of on and off before, but then during a podcast we did together, she went vegan. She wanted me to help her go vegan, and I answered her questions and she went vegan. And sometime later I actually visited her home so that I could give speeches at her yoga center and some universities in her area. So, the person I'm talking about, her name is Rachel, or Yoga Girl as seen on Instagram. She has over 2 million followers. Rachel is all about yoga and ahimsa, apparently. But for anyone who understands what ahimsa is non-violence. So I guess now she's just ahimsa to human beings, but no longer ahimsa to cows, pigs, chickens, fish, whoever else she decides that she's going to have abuse for her to eat. Now, I don't want to be too mean to this person, because I think she's a lovely person, you know, and I feel for her. She's confused. She's lost her way, especially if she wants to practice ahimsa. She's well and truly lost her way. And, you know, I have empathy for that. But I am also extremely passionate about this topic, and I cannot help but feel very frustrated when I see these kinds of things happen, especially with somebody with a huge audience, especially doing this in such a public way where she doesn't mention the animals at all, obviously. Because if she started to talk about what this actually means for the animals she's going to kill, the sentient, conscious, intelligent, feeling, emotional beings, the other beings we share this planet with who are just like humans, who have a heart, who have a brain, families, desires, not wanting to be murdered, wanting to live, not wanting to be abused, not wanting to be turned into someone's sandwich, just like you know? So she has just announced this on her Instagram, and I've been off Instagram for months, and I just logged on yesterday. And I saw her post saying, "Hey everyone, I've got a surprise tomorrow." And I was like, please don't let this surprise be that you are not vegan anymore. You know, this is not how I want to start getting back on Instagram with some bullshit. And today, surprise, surprise, yes, some of you guessed it, I'm no longer vegan. You know, big smiling photo. Like, this is nothing to smile about. This is not a happy moment. And if you were thinking about the victims, you would realize that. Now, she wrote a long caption, but what she also did was make a podcast. And I'm going to go through that podcast with you now, and I'm going to share my thoughts on what she says. I'll probably skip a few irrelevant parts of it out, but I'm going to go through basically the entire relevant part of the podcast. Rachel, if you watch this, I want to say, I am working on hate the sin, love the sinner, and I do believe what you're doing is extremely wrong. You are way off path, and there is no shame in, as you already know, because you've gone back and forth many times, once again admitting that you made a mistake. You're a human being. We all do it. We all do silly things at times. Making a mistake and then admitting, maybe I hadn't thought this through as much as I'd thought, and maybe this isn't really in alignment with the way that I truly want to live. Because knowing you, Rachel, I had a great time meeting you. I have always thought you were a very sweet person, someone who really cares, and that is absolutely not in alignment with what you are transitioning to right now. You mentioned that it's an evolution, but this is a devolution, 100%. So, Rachel, if you do watch this, I hope you will watch with an open mind yet again. I hope you're not too close-minded right now to stick with what you think you're doing is the right thing. I listened to your podcast already, and the whole thing to me, it was just quite easy to pick apart. And that's what this comes down to: education, learning, growing. When you know better, you do better. I think you've been put off path, and I hope that this will help you come back off path. And I want you to know I'm here if you need anything, if you want to talk about this more. I don't mean to do this in a harsh way, but these are my honest thoughts sharing to you. And as you know, I hope that you can just respect that and appreciate that I'm doing this for you as well as for your audience and anyone else listening who is now going to start thinking it is okay to continue funding the largest holocaust of sentient beings of all time, because Rachel, Yoga Girl, Miss Ahimsa, is doing it. Extremely bad message, way off path. Let's get into the podcast.
I am no longer vegan. Ooh. I have to laugh at myself a little bit as I share that with so much gravity. I have been a vegan person who has personally felt very emotionally triggered by finding out that a person I follow online isn't vegan anymore. I have literally been in that place. And what I'm saying is, not that you can't have that emotional reaction. Oh, whatever is triggered inside of you is yours, right? What I'm asking for is that it stays with you. That it stays with you.
So first of all, Rachel, you're asking people who are going to be triggered by your choice to become an animal abuser again to keep it to ourselves, to just hold our feelings in. Well, of course we're not going to do that. We're going to speak up for the victims like we always do. We're going to speak up for your victims. You now have blood on your hands, and you will continue to have abused animals and leave a trail of death behind you because of these choices. How can you ask people like us who are against this abuse to keep it in when half of your audience or a large amount of your audience is following you for your vegan practices, your ahimsa practices, your positive message, and then you bring out this message of it's okay to abuse animals actually because my ancestors do it? So that's a bit ridiculous, and I think part of the reason you probably don't want vegans commenting is because we're going to make a whole lot more sense than everything you said in this podcast and pick it to pieces very easily like I'm about to do.
Would have not been okay. It would have been if I went to that person's account and I was like, hey, you suck, or hey, I really hate you, or hey, you're a horrible person. If I kind of took that emotional reaction and turned it into something hateful and put it on them, that is not okay. And that is where I draw the line also.
Not good to just be hateful towards somebody, but let's just imagine if this was child abuse. You can imagine that if someone says, hey everyone, I know I've been against child abuse activist for a long time, but I've decided to start abusing children again because I just have some family in my past who abuse children, and it just feels like the right thing to do. My body's just kind of telling me it feels good when I abuse children. People are going to come at you. Not everyone is an excellent communicator that can just come with peace and love and say, hey, and that isn't necessarily the approach you need. Sometimes people do need to be shamed when they're doing shameful behavior.
So any vegans listening who might be triggered by what I'm sharing now, it's okay that you're triggered. It's okay that you're feeling big feelings.
And when you say that vegans are triggered by this, I wouldn't say we're triggered. We're just like, this is ridiculous. It's not like we are having this unwarranted emotional reaction. It's very warranted. And of course, vegans are going to respond.
Trust me when I say I understand, because I have felt those same feelings before. So I understand that you might have them and they're valid. What I'm asking for is that you don't share them with me.
And you don't want us to share them with you. Well, you're sharing your life with us. You're leaving a comment section on. We're sharing them with you. Why wouldn't you want that? You're saying I'm so ready for all this response and everything, but actually I don't want anyone's responses. Doesn't make any sense.
Let me stay in my safe, grounded place here, and let me.
About the safe place for the animals. You want this safe space so badly that you don't want people to talk about you. What about the safe space for the animals that they will no longer have because of you, who now, these particular animals that you're going to eat over the years, are going to be forced into slaughterhouses? Is that a safe place that you're forcing them into? Does that sound fair?
The other reason why it's taken me some time, or it's been hard for me to get to this episode, is because I wanted to make sure that I was really speaking from a place of truth, from a real place of inner truth, and that I was sure. Really, it is such a big thing. And if you're not vegan, if you've never been, if you don't align with that identity, you might, a lot of people listening to this are going to be like, I don't give a shit. Like what dietary preference someone else has. Like, why is that a big thing?
I'm just going to answer, why is that a big thing? Dietary preference isn't a big thing if you're just eating plants, but if you are choosing to eat sentient beings, conscious, aware, would it be a problem if someone's dietary preference was to be a cannibal and eat other humans? Yes, that's when it becomes a problem. It's not that what you're eating, it's when it becomes who you're eating. If you're planning to eat people, non-human people, that's why it's a problem. It's not just a dietary preference. This is a ethical decision you are making. It's beyond, do I feel like, this or that? It's, do I feel like murdering a sentient being for some nutrients or not murdering sentient beings for nutrients?
This is a big thing, and it really is in the vegan community, is because as vegans, we rarely say, I eat a vegan diet or I enjoy vegan food. We say, I am vegan, right? We have our identity.
We say, I am vegan because being vegan is beyond just what you eat. Being vegan is an ethical philosophy against the exploitation and slaughter of animals. It goes beyond just meat, dairy, and eggs and honey. It includes leather, wool, silk. It includes not hunting. It includes not going to zoos. It includes not supporting horse racing or other slave shows. It includes not buying medically tested cosmetics and things like that, tested on animals. So that's why we say I'm vegan, not just I'm on a vegan diet. If you're on a vegan diet, you're on a plant-based diet. It doesn't necessarily mean you are a vegan. You are striving in the only few ways required to live consistently with your ethical values of not causing exploitation, slavery, and slaughter of other sentient beings.
Enveloped in that veganism. It's not just the thing you choose to put on your plate, but it's who you are. What are your core values? Like, what do you believe in? What's best for the whole world? Not just what's best for me and mine, but like what's best for the whole world. It's this thing. And let me tell you, there have been so many changes in my life over the past year. And the one I'm actually enjoying the most is getting rid of this label.
You say that you're so happy about getting rid of this label, veganism, as if it was putting you in the box. The only box you were in was that you weren't an animal abuser anymore. That's it. There's so many different types of vegans, different types of religions, different shapes and sizes, different goals and values in life. All you're saying is, I'm against animal slavery and the animal holocaust. I'm against the mass slaughter of innocent beings. I'm against killing animals for food, clothing, entertainment, or medical testing in order for me to have those products, because I know I can get those things elsewhere. That's all. That's the box. That's it. There's nothing else you have to do to be a vegan. You're just like, hey, yeah, animal cruelty is wrong. That's why I'm vegan. Boom. I feel like you kind of keep mentioning it. I'm just so happy not to have the label. But you're not just getting rid of the label. You could have just said, guys, I don't want to identify as vegan anymore, I'm still going to live my vegan values, but that word, it's just a little bit heavily charged. I understand that. Like, it is a heavily charged word. When you say you're vegan, people are like, vegan? They have all these misconceptions of veganism. A whole bunch of baggage comes with it. You could have just done that, but you're not just throwing away the label vegan. You're saying, I'm no longer calling myself vegan because I no longer have the values of being against animal cruelty. That's what you're saying. It's not just about a label.
I have been vegan on and off, mainly on, for so much of my adult life that I haven't even allowed myself to think in any other way. And I was so sure that this is the way. And I decided that at a certain age, at a certain time, that this is it. And not only is it for me, but it is it for the world. Actually, everyone should do this thing. Actually, this is best for everyone's health, for everyone's body, for the whole world. This is it.
It is. People who are eating meat, dairy, and eggs, what do they have in common? Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity, osteoporosis, many other diseases. The number one killer is heart disease. The only diet proven to reverse heart disease in the majority of patients is a whole food plant-based diet. We could reverse the number one killer. So in that, just that one fact alone, yes, it's clearly better for humans to not be eating cholesterol and saturated fat. Get out of here, Dexter. Cholesterol and saturated fat that are leading to a whole bunch of different diseases. On top of that, yes, it is better for the world. It is far better to be eating a diet that causes far less greenhouse gas emissions, requires far less water, far less land, causes far less pollution, saves so much food because we're feeding animals nearly 10 times the amount of food that they produce, etc., etc., etc. Yes, you're correct. This is the better diet for humanity, for our personal health, and for our world, for the environment. It is the thing that would save us. The United Nations said the number one thing we could all do for our environmental footprint to be lowered is eat a plant-based diet. You aren't wrong. You were correct in these beliefs.
This is it. And even when people would tell me...
And one more thing. It's not just for a select few people. The studies show everyone can thrive on this diet. Athletes, breastfeeding mothers, the elderly, young, we can all thrive on an appropriate planned vegan diet. This is a fact. So yes, this is what the human body can thrive on. We get every nutrient that we need, and just like any other diet, there's certain nutrients that you're not getting because you don't like certain foods or whatever, you can easily find a cheap, affordable vegan supplement to cover those things as well. No need to kill anybody and eat their dead bodies so that you can get B12, for example.
And even when people would tell me, I tried going vegan, I felt terrible. I would be like, oh, I understand. Well, like everyone feels differently, but that's not what I thought. Like I would say that to be kind and avoid drama. What I was actually thinking was, oh, but you didn't do it right. I would genuinely think that I knew better.
People don't do a vegan diet right. Most people are eating a bunch of crap when they go vegan. That's unfortunate. There definitely needs to be more education in this space of what is a healthy vegan diet? What should I be eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Am I getting all my essential nutrients? It does take a bit of education, just like it takes a bit of education to eat a healthy healthy diet, including animal products, which is definitely not as easy. That's why so many people try diet after diet after diet. They're adding meat and eggs and dairy into their diet, wondering, why didn't this diet work? I'll try this diet. Why didn't this diet work? They're trying to make a healthy diet with unhealthy products. It doesn't work. Whole food plant-based diet is the easiest diet to be healthy. So yeah, a lot of people, unfortunately, who go vegan don't do the necessary education required, which can only take a couple of hours on the internet these days. It's very simple to figure it out, but it doesn't mean that they do it. They go vegan and they're like, oh, what do I eat? I don't really know. I guess I'll try a bit of this, bit of that. And are they eating enough legumes? Are they eating enough grains? Are they eating enough fruit, vegetables? Most people are not. That's just the reality. So yes, you were correct in thinking the people who weren't feeling so good on a vegan diet, and there are some, probably weren't doing it right.
Better about another person's body than they did, because I really believed veganism was the way. Everyone who wasn't doing it that way was doing it wrong. My experience was that I felt really great in the beginning, the way most people do when you radically change your diet in that way. And you're all of a sudden, the way I was, I wasn't eating processed foods anymore, and I was eating only organic, and I made a lot of changes in my life that came along with that vegan label. But I attribute
when you first went vegan, you were feeling great. What were you doing? Eating a lot of healthy vegan food. So let's see what happened.
Treated them all to being vegan. Felt a lot better for the first 2-3 years, and then increasingly kind of started to feel worse. Now just not having that box, not being confined in that space, makes me feel so free and so much more like myself.
That's good that you feel free, but remember who is no longer free now because of you. All I'm hearing here is just about you. I didn't feel quite as good, and you could have tweaked your diet. You could have seen a vegan dietitian. You could have asked somebody like me. There's a lot of things you could have done, but you just didn't want the label, and so now you are changing back for no good reason so far. Well, you said I didn't feel quite. What does that mean? I didn't feel quite as good. What? Did your blood test show something? What was the problem exactly? Like, so vague.
There is a freedom in having choices. I have felt such joy going to a restaurant, and just realizing that the whole world is open to me.
This is one of the craziest things I think she said. There is a freedom in feeling so free that now I can go to a restaurant and the whole menu is open to me. Rachel, you're free to do whatever you want, mate. You can go live whatever life you want. Do you want to go and abuse children? Do you want to force some people into slavery? Would you like to get into the sex trafficking trade? You are free to do all of these things. Is it the right thing for you to do? Just, oh, I'm free to do it, I might as well go do it. No, it's about what is ethical. Do you care about that? Do you care about that at all when you look at this menu and think, someone's legs, someone's breasts, now I can eat all of this? Where is your empathy for these beings? It's just like they don't exist to you. They're just products on a menu to you now. You've totally forgotten who you are eating, what has happened to them before they got into this menu to become a menu item. The screaming, the suffering, the crying, the pain, the misery, the breaking families apart, the rape, forced insemination, breeding into existence over and over again, this cycle of death, this horrible violence. Where is the conversation about this? You're just happy that there's a few extra menu items?
That doesn't mean that I'm gonna, pick the thing that is that is the most, far away from the vegan label ever.
It means that you're not going to pick the thing that isn't the most far away from the vegan label. Meat, dairy, and eggs, it is all far away from the vegan label. It doesn't matter if you should know this. I know you know this. Oh, well, they ate grains before they were killed. Oh, they were grass-fed before they had their throats slashed open. Oh, they got to walk around on the paddock before the chickens got their head cut off. What are you talking about? It's all the same shit. It's all the same shit. They all go to the slaughterhouse.
Doesn't mean I'm suddenly sitting here, it's not like I'm back to eating processed foods and
back to eating processed foods. Like, who cares? Eat processed foods. You can eat processed foods, mate. That's a choice of your own. It doesn't involve anybody else. You want to eat as much processed foods as you want, go for it. Who cares if they're vegan? If they're not vegan, processed or not, that's where the issue is, right? Because you're buying foods of slavery, foods of exploitation, foods of horrible suffering and violence, totally running away from ahimsa, sprinting in the opposite direction. Ahimsa is one universe, and what you're discussing right here is another universe.
And I've somehow become less healthy. Actually, for me, I really feel like it's the opposite. I feel much more healthy now than I did before.
Feel much more healthy now. What do you mean? Describe that. Are your blood results better? Were you deficient in something? I feel much more healthy now. What the fuck does that mean? It's so vague, Rachel. Explain to us a little more so that maybe I'm suffering some symptoms. I don't know. I wake up every day. I live my life every day. I sleep well. All my blood tests are perfect. I've been vegan nearly 9 years. So what is it you're talking about? People live many, many years, decades and decades as a vegan. What exactly were you suffering from? You're just saying, I feel so much more healthy now. Sounds like you're getting placebo effects and helping try to convince yourself that you're doing the right thing. Oh, I just feel good today. I feel good today. Yeah, you're making yourself feel good because you're doing something wrong. But if you tell yourself, well, it's making me feel healthier, whatever that means, then cool. I can just do it. That's my excuse.
Looking back, just how much my needs shifted when I became pregnant, how depleted I was after pregnancy, and how really it was after pregnancy.
Depleted after pregnancy. It's a huge thing to go through, and it is perfectly healthy, as discussed in many studies, for breastfeeding mothers, new mothers, mothers that are pregnant or about to give birth, to be vegan, to be on a plant-based diet. Perfectly healthy. In fact, there's many benefits of being vegan during these times.
It was after pregnancy that I started feeling increasingly terrible and felt my energy levels drop, really, and felt my stress levels go up, and was getting sick all the time and dealing with mold, like making my immune system just...
There's another thing. You were saying you felt sick all the time with after pregnancy. Yeah, you had a massive mold issue in your house that potentially caused it, right? Not that you were eating plants, not that you were eating fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, and beans. hopefully, and probably some vegan meats and this and that thrown in there. That's not what was the problem. Why are you bringing this into how you felt? You know, when we're talking about your diet, it had nothing to do with your diet.
Right after pregnancy, when I started getting really sick on and off, I had two doctors back then tell me, would you be open to introducing some animal foods into your diet? And I was like, oh, hell no. Are you crazy? And I would like hang up after a consultation and tell Dennis, like, this doctor just like I was offended. Like, how could they possibly ask me that? Never mind you that it was a doctor telling me this, or, you know, I reached out to them because they had expertise. And I was just, anytime I
reached out, a couple of doctors said, hey, would you be open to eating animal products? Yeah, because they got no idea about nutrition. Most doctors get 6 hours of nutrition in a 4-year course of becoming a doctor. They don't know anything about health and nutrition. And it shows. So many unhealthy looking doctors out there who are on their own blood pressure meds, cholesterol meds, because they're eating the diet that they're recommending to you because they are not educated on what a healthy diet is, which is a whole food plant-based diet. They've got their biases too. They see a vegan, they just think, oh, deficiency, not eating meat, need to eat meat, meat for protein, meat for iron. They're as lost as anybody when it comes to nutrition.
then, and then another time, you know, kind of a couple years ago before I had my big mold, the big burnout that led into the mold that kind of led us to move and change our lives completely. I had another, this time a functional medicine doctor, suggest I eat egg, and explaining in depth why it would be very, very helpful for me to get more choline into my diet and that I needed this kind of amino acid profile. And have you ever considered that maybe you are a little depleted on this kind of diet? And then, you know, the vegan diet.
Anything positive in an egg you could have got from a vegan diet. If this doctor was more educated, he would have been able to help you with that. Ideally, Rachel, you would have gone to a vegan dietitian or nutritionist who could have told you that. Eggs are far from a health food. There's more cholesterol in an egg than in a Big Mac burger. They're disgusting for your health. Not to mention the cruelty that comes from most eggs you buy. Some, sure, there's some backyard eggs with, you know, cruelty we can talk about, but it isn't as blatantly obvious. But the point is, there's not just an egg that is going to fix whatever these problems are that you've been so vague about. Absolutely not. Nothing that you couldn't have found in a vegan diet.
And living in Aruba, you know, we started eating a lot of processed vegan food. And it's kind of exciting when you've been vegan for a long time and there's nothing to eat and all of a sudden there's vegan ice cream. I mean, you lose your shit. Any vegan listening knows what it's like to all of a sudden, like you're living in a non-vegan world and then slowly the world starts to transition and become more vegan friendly and there's vegan options for everything. And I had that big, like, for the last few years of living in Aruba, every time I found something new that was labeled vegan at the grocery store, I was like, oh my God, amazing. And I didn't really care what it was. It was like vegan tater tots. I'm there, you know, vegan pepperoni pizza. Let's go. Beyond meat and beyond sausage. Let's go. You know, vegan burgers, vegan chicken wings, vegan cheeses. Oh my God, we ate so much vegan cheese and vegan butter and like the vegan version of everything. Where before, literally.
Okay, so sounds like a huge amount of processed foods. If you were eating that, you said, I eat so much vegan cheese. I was eating vegan sausages. I was eating vegan butter, you know, whatever else you said. Yeah, if you were eating all those things on an animal-based diet, not only would you have been even more unhealthy because of the added amounts of saturated fat and cholesterol, but of course, if you're eating a whole bunch of processed junk food that's not going to probably make you feel very good. Just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's a health food that you should eat multiple times every day, especially when there's literally 60,000 plants you could eat at your disposal at the same supermarket, you know? You can have your oats for breakfast with berries, with some peanut butter. You can have tofu scramble on toast for breakfast. You can have smoothies. You can have, you know, like there's heaps of things you could have had for breakfast instead of cheese on toast with butter, just as an example. So no wonder you weren't feeling so great. Let's stop blaming veganism and a plant-based diet for this. Let's start being real that you weren't eating a healthy diet.
I wasn't really aware, I think, of how much processed food I was eating. And because it was all in my head labeled really healthy, right? But it's vegan butter. Like this is just like really good stuff in there. Like I just thought this is like mostly coconut oil. But if I looked at the ingredient list, that wasn't really true. You know, I was eating soybean oil and canola oil and just really...
Just FYI, coconut oil is actually one of the worst oils you can consume because it is the highest in saturated fat, which is something you definitely want to avoid. So thinking that it was a healthy butter because it was high in coconut oil was just part of your lack of education with food. No offense, like, but just telling you, this is a lack of education problem, not a vegan diet problem.
Heavily processed seed oils in everything all the time, you know. And it wasn't anymore for me mainly like a whole foods based diet. And a lot of factors to this. Anyway, and I said no to the egg. I was like, absolutely not. Are they crazy? And then until, you know, everything kind of broke, which was for me getting so sick that I never recovered, that I remained sick for just such a long time, finding out we had toxic mold in the house, ending up leaving our house, ending up on this massive detox protocol that I was on for the better part of last year. And working with a couple of different doctors, I've been in phases with different doctors to help my health get back on track. And every single one of them has wanted me to eat some combination or variation of animal foods introduced.
Why? Why did your doctors want you to do that? What benefit is there in getting nutrients from dead bodies and baby cow growth fluid and bird periods that you can't get from plants, minus all the things that you don't want in animal products, like animal protein, carcinogenic, like the cholesterol, like the saturated fat, like the other things? You know, the doctors don't know what they're fucking talking about. That's the problem here. You listen to people who don't know what they're talking about. I don't know why you didn't go and see vegan professionals.
And the last doctor I've been working with, who I am so thankful for, and probably I would love to have on the show at some point, is Dr. Will Cole. You can find him on Instagram. He's a fun.
I would recommend getting Will Cole on the podcast, and I would like to recommend a vegan doctor get on the podcast with this guy, and let's see who has the better education on nutrition. I guarantee it's not Will Cole. So that would be a good idea, wouldn't it, to get both sides of the story? I'm not going to do it. There's way better people out there for this job. I'm happy to talk to you again on your podcast about all the things I'm mentioning here. But I think that would be a really good idea, Rachel, to get a fair, balanced discussion, not just some random biased guy who is going to say what he wants to say. Animal products is good. People should eat animal products. And then again, you just mislead your audience and lead to a lot more unnecessary suffering and death of innocent beings.
Functional medicine doctor who just does a lot of really healing work for people with chronic illnesses and people who've been failed a little bit by more traditional medicine. And he said, listen, like, I totally get it. He was a vegan for so many years. He was really loving and really kind in his approach. Like, I know what this is like. I know this is your life. I know this is your identity. This is your lifestyle. Like, it's so hard. It's so hard to even contemplate transitioning. But could you consider opening yourself up to maybe like having some egg? Like, maybe could you just like sit with the idea of that? Just think about it, just like contemplate it, see what it would feel like, because it would be very interesting for you to begin at least opening up your diet a little bit just to try. And if you feel worse and you feel like shit and there's no change in your life, you could just go back, right? And even for me, that thought of like, I'm stepping off the vegan train, like, you can't go back. How hypocritical would that be? Like, this is who I am. But at the same time, I was like, wait, like, I'm sick. Like, I'm actually sick. I felt so depleted. I felt so weak and so depleted in my whole body.
So weak and so depleted. What did your blood tests show? Maybe it was because of all the toxic mold that you were living in for years. You know, why do you think an egg is going to solve this problem?
And I'm like, I'm not even willing to try and to consider this from this like professional is recommending me to see if I feel better. What if I feel better? And then I was like, well, that thought is even scarier. What if I would eat some animal foods and I actually would feel better? Like, that thought was the really scary thought, because I was convinced, like, of course I wouldn't. Of course I wouldn't. I would feel terrible and it would make me feel worse. And
you wouldn't. It would, if you were being honest with yourself, you would have ate an egg and be like, yum, eggs are delicious. No vegans stopped eating eggs because we didn't like the taste. But you think that's going to just change your life all of a sudden? An egg? No. And anything from an egg that you could have got that you think is so life-changing, you could have got from a vegan source or a vegan supplement as well.
But the thought of like, what if I would eat some animal foods and my health would improve? Like, that would be scary, because that would challenge everything I've told myself about this lifestyle. And it would challenge this big identity that I have, where I really had the viewpoint that I know best, right? Not just for me, for everyone. I was contemplating this idea of eating egg, and I told myself, okay, if I am meant, this is how I do things often when I'm unsure about something. And yeah, all my friends laugh at me for this, but this is how I do things. If this is meant to be, like, if I am meant to introduce egg into my diet, egg will come my way. The universe will provide me with some sort of sign, or something's going to happen, and it's going to feel serendipitous and very much in my face. And it's like, universe will tell me and show me. Like it will be very clear. But I'm not going to go to the freaking grocery store and buy a packet of eggs and eat that. Like, no, hell no. And then one of our first like days being at this little cabin, the owner of the property, they had a farm next door and invited us to take a little tour. Like, would you like to see the property and maybe go see the sheep? They had a bunch of sheep there. So we took a long walk with them. And then as we're on our way back, Leia sees this little, like really old little structure. She's like, what's there? And they're like, oh, that's the old chicken coop. But sorry, there's no eggs in there. We already collected the eggs this morning. And the lady was like, but you want to go inside and say hi? You can still say hi to them. And she goes inside. She like ventures in on her own, like very brave. And then comes out and she's like, Mama, look. And she's holding one perfect egg in her hand. And I'm like, oh, well, look at that. And then the lady's like, oh, that's so funny. Like, I already collected the eggs today. Wow, that's a really special egg. Honey, you keep this one. This one's just for you. And this woman, of course, didn't know that we were vegan. She's like, this is just for you. And Leia holds this egg, looks at it, and she goes, no, this one's for Mama. Mama, here.
Okay, so you were waiting for some sort of sign that an egg would come into your life. And then next door to where you were living, there was a farm where they had eggs. You chose to go on a tour of the farm. You chose to go into where chickens lay the eggs. There was an egg in there. What a surprise. And then an egg came into your hand. You know, it wasn't that serendipitous, mate. Like, you went to a chicken farm and the lady, as they always do when you go to places like this, offered you an egg, you know? What you probably should have done, what I would recommend you'd done, instead of saying, you know, just give me a sign if I should eat eggs. You should have watched some footage of what happens in the egg industry. Or even if you're not getting eggs from the egg industry, as currently you're not, but let's see how long that lasts. You watch what happens to these chickens when they stop producing eggs for their owners, when they get their heads cut off. So that would have been a good thing for you to be like, is this what aligns with the kind of person I want to be? Cutting the heads off birds just for eggs? That would have been a good exercise. I wish you did both.
We go home, and the whole walk home, just knowing I had an egg in my pocket, I felt like I had robbed a liquor store or something. Like the police was going to come get me. Felt like what I knew is if I go this route and I eat this one egg, you know, which will be the first non-vegan thing I've had in like a decade, forever. If I go down this road, it's like I kind of knew there's no turning back. You know, it's like I'm either going down this road, staying in my vegan box, or I'm not.
Let me just stop you right there. Rachel, people make mistakes, okay? It doesn't have to be, if I eat this one egg, that's it. I'm no longer vegan. I'm no longer going to be vegan. I'm going to throw away all my ethical values towards animals. I'm going to agree with abusing animals for unnecessary food products again. It's all gone. No, it doesn't have to be so black or white. Even if you're at this point where you're there, there's an egg, you can still have the egg and then sometime later reassess. You don't have to be like, well, that's me. I'm gone now. I ain't it no more. Okay, people have moments like this. You've been through a confusing time. Some doctors are saying, maybe you should eat an egg. Maybe you should eat an egg. You haven't been feeling your best. It's probably for other reasons, but you're thinking, maybe it could be the vegan diet. You know, like, I'm confused about a vegan diet right now. Doctors saying eat eggs, blah, blah, blah. So it's understandable. All right, you're confused. You're going through a time. You don't have to be so, well, this is it. This is the rest of my life. If I eat this egg, boom, I'm back to abusing animals and I'm going to think it's okay. I'm going to tell my 2 million followers that it's just part of my journey and, you know, please respect it. Don't be mad, but I want to pay for animal abuse again. It doesn't have to be like that. You can say, yeah, I ate an egg and look, maybe I felt like I did feel better, but at the end of the day, after reminding myself by watching some footage of what these poor animals who are clearly desperately not wanting to be at the mercy of these horrible humans who don't see them as the individuals that they are, you can say, oh, I saw that and then I decided, actually, I'm going to find the vegan way. And there's still time to do that.
Really, it was a highly emotional experience. And then I felt this huge calm just settle over my whole body. And eat the egg. So I went to the kitchen. I had to call my best friend and ask, how does one, what do I do here? And she's also been very vegan for a very long time. And just in the last year started kind of introducing some other things. So she would always, like, when we had breakfast, she would always have like a boiled egg with breakfast, and I would always not.
I just want to say this, like, as a general tip. You said that your friend who's going through a bit of a similar time, she's been vegan a long time, but now she's starting to reintroduce things and having boiled eggs for breakfast. One problem with vegans, and this is something that why I recommend people continue to remember why they went vegan in the first place, which for most of us, it is because we saw animals getting their throats slashed open, getting hung upside down, getting electrocuted to death, getting forced into gas chambers, and we realized, what the hell? No, I don't want to live like that. If there's another way to live, oh, I can be vegan, great. People who are vegan, we often make the mistake of, I'm vegan, I don't want to see that footage anymore. I want to forget I ever saw that footage. That shit is traumatizing even to look at, let alone experience if you're one of the victims. And I think that's a mistake vegans make, especially if you're starting to think about reintroducing animal products into your diet as if it's just no big deal. It is a big deal, and to avoid doing that and give you more strength and conviction in making the correct choice to align your actions with your values, watch some footage again. Watch Earthlings, watch Dominion, watch a 5-minute slaughterhouse video where you see the animals, you look them in the eyes and you remember, this is a person just in a different body. My God, how can we possibly do this to these poor babies? What the hell am I thinking? No thank you. Right? Just a tip for all the more long-term vegans out there.
Go sit down, like I had candles lit, I peeled the egg, I took a bite, and it was maybe the most delicious thing I've ever eaten in my whole entire life. And I get weirdly emotional sharing that because, yeah, it really was a big...
Eggs are delicious. I love eating eggs back in the day. They're gooey, they're nice with a bit of salt, they're nice on toast. Yeah, steak is delicious. I love the taste of dead bodies. If I ate a human, they apparently taste like pork. I'd probably think it was delicious. Just because your mouth enjoys a specific combination of fats and protein and carbs, salt, whatever, that's not your body telling you, you should eat this, right? Otherwise, everybody should be eating McDonald's. It tastes delicious, right? Doesn't mean it's good for you. That isn't your body saying, eat more eggs. See what happens if you eat a lot of eggs. You'll die a lot quicker. And I'm sure that's not what you want. But the point is, just because you found something delicious, that isn't your body's way of telling you, this is the best optimal thing for you in terms of your health, your ethics, and our environment. It's just your tongue saying, yum, something fatty and salty.
Yeah, it really was a big thing. And I knew, like, if this is not for me, I'm going to feel disgusted. I'm going to feel this is so gross.
No, you're not just going to necessarily feel it's so disgusting and gross. You've eaten eggs in the past before and enjoyed them. You're eating an egg now and enjoying the flavor. You're completely disconnected from what it means for the animals for you to be eating this egg and where this path is leading you, and soon influencing millions of people that are influenced by you in regards to what is ethical, what is ahimsa, what is diet. You're not thinking about any of this stuff. You're just thinking egg, yummy, I thought this would be disgusting, but this is actually delicious. That's meaningless.
I always thought egg was the most disgusting thing. I mean, I thought every animal food was so disgusting and horrible, and it wasn't. It wasn't. I ate that egg feeling so full. I felt so full. And then from that point, it was like, okay.
Felt so full from an egg. Try eating a massive bowl of oatmeal. Try eating some, a big vegetable tofu curry. All these things can fill you up. You can have a vegan pizza, it will fill you up. An egg didn't fill you up. You were just like, it was everything tied to it of what you were doing, the excitement, you're breaking veganism, you're starting this new chapter, maybe this is a really great move. Like, there's all this stuff going on, and you're placeboing yourself and saying, whoa, I'm so full, this is the most delicious thing I've ever eaten. All this is just you trying to, consciously or unconsciously, make you feel better about what you're doing.
A week later, I had my second egg. And then I probably had like one egg a week for a while. Like, it was really this like strange, rare thing that I was figuring out how I felt. And then I started really craving it. Really, really, really craving it. Craving it to the point of it was like getting to wake up in the morning and I got to have that one egg with my breakfast. It was like
I sometimes crave foods too. Sometimes I crave eating a 1 liter tub of vegan ice cream. Sometimes I crave eating pizzas. You know, again, this isn't anything meaningful regarding do you need specific nutrients from this egg? Is this the correct decision overall for your life and for who you are and want to be as a person? No, it's just you being like, I enjoy eggs. Right now I'm only letting myself eat an egg a week, so soon I get to eat my egg again. Yay.
At breakfast, it was like I got to start my day with dessert, just craving it. And that really was the beginning of the end of me being vegan. And it took pretty much all of like this whole past year of just being open to trying different kinds of foods, being open to experimenting with some animal foods. What happens when I eat this? What happens if I change this? What happens if I add this into my...
What happens is you eat food, you chew it, you swallow it, you get some nutrients from it. You either cause harm and death or you don't. That's what happens. It's not an exciting experiment. You've eaten these things before. Nothing new happens. You're not going to grow wings and fly away. You know, it's nothing special. It's just a different form of where to get nutrients. That's it.
This into my life. And mainly the number one question that I keep asking myself, that I stay till this moment asking myself is, and how do I feel?
Yes, that is the question you keep asking yourself. How do you feel? How do I feel when I'm eating this dead body? How do I feel when I'm eating this innocent being who screamed and cried in their last moments and begged for mercy as a knife was getting put into their throat? Did you ever ask, how did they feel? I wonder how they felt. Is it really worth it? Yeah, I'm enjoying this. It's so delicious. But is it worth what the cost of this? You know, that's the question you don't seem to be asking. And that's the most important question.
And it happened fairly quickly for me, like with the egg, that I started feeling more nourished, that I started feeling just fuller, where normally I would have to eat much more.
You said, I felt more nourished. Meaning what? What do you mean you felt more nourished? Like, so vague. I felt fuller. If you needed to feel more full, eat more calories. There's a lot of calories you can get from rice, veggies, pastas, nuts, seeds, countless different beans, chickpeas, hummus, avocado, pizzas, pastas, you know, curries, burritos. Like, you know, you could have just eaten a little more. You didn't need to eat animals to get those extra calories that you needed. Very easily you could have eaten a little bit more food if you wanted.
I was eating, of course, like a lot of carbs. I was eating a lot of... And I was eating, you know, this whole like the big debate about the protein. I was eating protein, but it was mainly processed versions of protein, like vegan, like fake meats a lot.
You were eating a lot of fake meats. It's still protein. Protein is protein. It's still the building blocks, the aminos of how to build your muscles. It's just protein. Just, again, it's in a natural food like a bean, or it's in a dead body, a piece of someone's corpse, or it's in a bunch of plants combined to make a meaty texture. Protein is still in there. What do you mean processed protein? It's just protein.
And tofu and
Tofu,
you know, some
healthy.
beans and things like that, but not like that much. I really think I needed a different kind of protein.
You didn't need a different kind of protein. There is no different kind of protein. There are 9 essential amino acids. That is all what protein is. It's the same in meat as it is in tofu, as it is in vegan meat. You weren't getting a different kind of protein. You were just getting it from a different source. A piece of someone's flesh. That's it.
Protein in my diet. I needed egg.
No, you didn't need egg. You didn't need to eat a bird's period to be healthy. Just like I haven't needed to eat any bird's periods for the last 9 or so years since I've been vegan. And the other vegans who haven't eaten any eggs for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, which, as you'll see, will be me in the future, because I'm eating a healthy diet. I'm educated on it, got educated on it, and you could have got more educated on it too. Definitely did not need to eat an egg. Your body wasn't like, I need an egg or I will not function correctly.
So the past year has been this exploration of, okay, well, what feels good? What makes sense? And of course, at the same time, I'm doing all the reading I can do about everything that that not being a vegan involves. So when I let go of the vegan label, does it mean that all of a sudden I am now a big proponent of factory farming and animal cruelty? And of course,
Exactly. That is what it means. Now that you are not vegan, you are a proponent for animal cruelty. Correct. That is literally the difference between a vegan and a non-vegan. So yes, that is exactly what it means. That is exactly what you're saying. I'm eating meat now. How did you get it? Animal cruelty. If you're eating vegan meat, how did you get it? Plants. There's no plant cruelty because plants aren't sentient beings capable of experiencing suffering, pain, or any type of experience like that. So yes, that's literally what you are saying, Rachel. That is the difference between vegan you and not vegan you. Are you a proponent for factory farms? I am going to guess yes. Not all of the animal products that you've eaten in, is it a year? I'm a little confused with your timeline here. Sounds like maybe a year you've been doing this. I am going to bet a solid amount of what I own that you are not just eating the most ethical animal products that you can source. I'm sure you've eaten some factory farm meat. So yes, it does mean that you are a proponent of that. And if you haven't yet, just wait, because I've seen a lot of ex-vegans like you, and it doesn't take long before, oh, meat is meat, you know, let's just get some bacon with our breakfast when we're at this cafe today. It don't take long, mate. It's a slippery slope.
and of course not. Like, of course
Yes.
not. All of those, the big core values that I have inside, around least harm and kindness and
The big core values that you have inside around least value, around least harm and kindness are when you're vegan. When you are paying people to slit throats, they're not your values anymore. You're saying 1 + 1 = 3. It doesn't work like that. That's why we go vegan. That's why this label exists, so that we can differentiate between people who do support those barbaric, horrific, outdated practices and those who have evolved beyond it and are trying to encourage others to evolve beyond it as well.
taking genuine good care of the world. Like, all those core values are still there. They haven't changed. What I have,
Or I'll say this, maybe those core values still are there, Rachel, and you're just so lost with how to be healthy on a vegan diet that you think you are still doing your very best despite eating animal products. I'd like to give you that benefit of the doubt. I don't think you're a necessarily horrible, bad person deliberately just trying to go out and hurt animals. Of course I don't. Most people aren't. I just more say that you are, unfortunately, very badly misinformed, and it is going to be at the detriment of hundreds, thousands maybe over your lifetime if you don't change back, earthlings who will suffer these consequences.
and to really understand for the first time in my life, though, is that
Hundreds just in your own life, not to mention how many people you influence. So times that by, let's say, 10,000.
the vegan way, the way I was living, and maybe you live different as a vegan if you're listening, but the way I was living wasn't the most sustainable way. The amount of packaged processed foods that had to be made in a factory somewhere and then shipped across the world.
Who cares? Packaged processed foods. Who cares, first of all, if processed foods are bad? You can still be perfectly healthy eating processed foods from time to time. It's not a big deal. You're worried about plastic, but you're not worried about animals getting their throats slashed open or getting electrocuted to death or getting forced in gas chambers. How does this make sense? You're so concerned about plastic. I remember it wasn't that long ago, you got one of your tattoos removed. It was an right? Because you felt you were offending a culture. Now, I thought personally that is going way too far. It's an it's a beautiful symbol. It's respecting a culture that you're somewhat a part of, being so into yoga, but to each their own. But my point is, you care so much about not offending them that you decided to get that tattoo removed. What do you think the animals would say if they could speak? Do you think maybe their words to Rachel, now they are considering eating them again, as you kind of laugh through this whole process with a big smile on your Instagram photo, surprise, I'm not vegan anymore, laughing through this whole process as if there's no big deal, no concern for the actual victims of this. What if they could speak? I wonder if you would change your tune then. And my guess is you would, because their words would pierce through your heart, their screams would pierce through your heart, and you wouldn't be able to handle it. And you'd be like, I'll find a way to be vegan. But because the animals don't get to speak up for themselves, and it's left to people like me and other vegans who you are trying to also silence and say, please don't say anything, please avoid telling me what your real feelings are, you get to just sort of get off scot-free without feeling any sort of ramification of your actions, because you're not going to think about the victims. And yeah, that's just how you want it.
In, paper and plastic to get to my plate. Like there's a lot of components there. And I genuinely believed
It's not unethical to use paper or plastic. That's just how things are. Yes, that's something that could be improved and probably will be improved in the future as we choose more environmentally friendly packaging options. But in the meantime, you can use plastic. Is it perfect? No, it's not. Is it a million times better to choose a package wrapped in plastic compared to cutting off the head of a earthling? Obviously, yes.
that if I was drinking oat milk and coconut milk and almond milk and all the nut milks, I was way more sustainable and better for the world than the next door person who had a dairy cow. And they
So a person who had a dairy cow was exploiting this individual, and eventually, just like almost all dairy cows on earth, will be murdered when she stops producing enough milk. It's not just, oh, they're just getting milked, no big deal. It's that, oh, you don't produce milk anymore. Bang in the head, cut up, right? Breed a new one into existence through rape, forcing an animal to be pregnant against their will, caging them, shoving their arm inside them, injecting them with semen. New baby, let's start this process again. Give me your milk. Oh, no more milk. Bang, cut. That's what they're doing next door. Or you can buy oat milk, or almond milk, or rice milk, or soy milk. Yeah, it comes in packaging. Who cares? Or, as I'm pretty sure I did with you in your home, I think we made almond milk together. We blended some almonds, we put in some dates and some water, and we made a delicious almond milk. You don't even need packaging for that.
drank the milk from their own cow. And I know now that that is not true. Like that is like very, and it's very obvious and clear for me to how I can fully like see that small scale family farm who literally, live with the earth. What's better for the planet and more sustainable is that no middleman way. And most people don't live that way, right? Most people who eat animal foods get their milk packaged from across the world in paper and plastic. But the idea that I had that, I can be a vegan and being a vegan kind of excuses everything else. It means that automatically whatever's on my plate is always more sustainable and better for the environment.
Because when you're a vegan, you are massively reducing your environmental impact. That's what the United Nations have said. Being vegan is the number one thing you can do to reduce your environmental impact. So yeah, even if you're having packaged almond milk, it's still better. Do you think that we can large scale these dairy farms that your next door neighbor has? No, we've got to think about what's good for the world here. We've got to promote a diet that's good for everyone. Again, the United Nations has said the only way that we'll be able to feed the growing population that is estimated to be 10 billion by 2050 is if we all switch to a plant-based diet. Why are you recommending this? Oh, if we just get a cow as a next door neighbor, recommend the practical solution. That's not a practical solution. You have so many people following you. You could be encouraging them. You said you haven't spoken about veganism in ages. Why? How many people can you encourage to make this more ethical, environmentally sustainable choice in such a dire time where the earth is on fire and flooding? We've got all these problems, and now you're going back on all the best thing we can do as individuals, and you're telling 2 million people, this isn't important, don't do it, I've got this other way I'm doing it, what are you doing, mate? How have you gotten to this point? My questions are how have you gotten to this point? I've heard your story, I haven't found any of it very convincing at all. I know that Dennis was never really big into being vegan. He liked fishing, as you said in your podcast. And I wonder if this is just look, this is just too hard, you just want to keep your husband happy, it's just making you kind of fight over things. I don't know, mate, I'm just having guesses here. But I don't think that the egg changed your life so much that now you get to eat meat and now it doesn't matter. And it just doesn't make sense.
Than any animal food. Like that is not true. It just isn't true. And looking into wanting to live a life that's self-sustaining, and this was kind of creeping up to me because all my books about how to live a self-sustaining life, how to really tend to the land, like how to create a proper homestead, they come with some sort of animal component. And you need animals to work the land to be able to actually grow at that.
You don't need animals to make a lot of different foods. Absolutely not. There's vegan fertilizers. There's countless different ways to do things. You don't need animals. Stop telling people lies.
Kind of scale. You need the fertilizer that the animal feces bring the soil. And if you don't have animals doing that, you have to buy packaged, like you have to buy packaged fertilizer.
So buy it. Buy a package. It's okay. We can recycle things. We can, the earth can handle a certain amount of this. The situation that you're discussing is far worse if we take all things into consideration than a little bit of plastic.
There's a miles away difference between being a kind of, like if I was the kind of vegan and I grew my own food and that's what I ate, right? And I know now living that way, I wouldn't be fulfilled. If that was the case, I would have been living that way. And there's a big difference between tending to your own animals that maybe you harvest and eat at the end of their lives.
God, Rachel, stop it. There's a big difference between harvesting the animals that you've cared for your whole life. So you're going to get these animals to trust you. You're going to make friends with them. You're going to name them, and then at one point you're going to kill them. You're going to slit their throats, are you, Rachel? You're gonna pull their head back, say a little prayer, and then cut their throat, and you think you're doing them a favor. And you're talking about we've lost this ancient way of living. Yeah, it's ancient for a reason, because we've evolved. Look, you're making a video for, you're talking on a podcast. I'm making a video here. We're far evolved from ancient practices. Why are you trying to live like a caveman where they bash animals over the head and cut them into pieces so that they can eat something when you have literally vegan meat in the supermarket you were just talking about? This makes absolutely no sense. Why are you so hung up on this idea of living old school, ancestrally? Are you going to get rid of your phone? Are you going to get rid of other modern technologies? Or you just want to live in an ancestral way when it comes to giving you the opportunity to abuse animals so that you can eat their bodies? Are you going to be consistent, or are you still going to do it in this one aspect of life?
Or, getting dairy or meat from the neighbor farm versus going to the grocery store and getting, big cutlets wrapped in saran.
No, there's not a big difference between you getting flesh from your next door neighbor or getting it if it's wrapped in a bit of plastic at the supermarket. The big difference is what? This much plastic? Really? No, it's still a dead body. It's still an animal who screamed and cried and didn't want to die. Just as much as you would scream and cry and beg for your life if you were the one getting hung upside down by other earthlings who had big knives who were looking at you like you were nothing but a piece of meat. You would be crying for your life, as they do, as they scream. And I went into the slaughterhouse in Aruba and I saw the animals before they were getting slaughtered. And I've been in many slaughterhouses before, and I know you've seen slaughterhouse footage. So remember that. Remember these aren't just nothing things, these animals. They're conscious beings. Tell me the big difference that you see. An important question for you and everybody. What is so different about a cow or a pig and us? Tell me what the huge difference is where you, Rachel, would never consider being anywhere near this violent to a human being. Why do you think it's okay to be so incredibly, horribly, sadistically, mental, violent towards a cow, or pig, or chicken? What is so different about it? There must be a huge difference, right? Otherwise, why would you do it? So you must see them as extremely different to us. Please explain the trait that is different to them that makes you think, murder humans, bad. Murder these animals? My ancestors did it. Must be cool, Think about what is so different. What you will come to is that there is no difference. You are just being speciesist because you've been taught that animals are dumb. Humans are animals too, and yes, there's a lot of dumb humans out there, I agree. It doesn't mean that we should murder them.
Plastic wrap from a factory farm miles away where animals are living in just horrible conditions. There's so much gray area here. There's gray area on the vegan side and there's gray area on the non-vegan side. And what I realized is just the way of life that I want to have doesn't align with the vegan way anymore.
Yes, that is true. The life you want to have is one where you can eat other earthlings, where you can eat dead bodies, where you can eat sentient beings, animals who didn't want to die. You like the taste of egg. You want to eat chickens. You want to eat cows. You want to eat pigs. And that, yes, it doesn't align with being vegan. Correct. This is no fault of veganism or a vegan diet. You just want to eat meat. That's what it's come down to so far at this point. There's been no other good excuse. I'm glad you were honest about it there.
And
I just want to eat animals.
to live a life where I get to tend to my own animals. Like I would love.
I get to tend to my own animals. What do you mean tend? Like you're going to feed them for a while and then you're going to cut their heads off. Wow. So ahimsa. Namaste. So kind. This is... I can't even believe I'm having this conversation. Like, how can you preach what you do for so many years and then just change like this, you know? I don't get it. Like, it feels like a joke to me, a bad joke. Is this April Fool's Day? Am I missing something here? I just can't understand how you could do such a 180. It's just because you're not thinking about the victims. You just don't understand who they are. And if you did, I'm sure you wouldn't be so cruel to them.
To have my own chickens. It's as soon as we are able, and as soon as we have the space, that's what we're going to do. And I've been alluding.
Yeah, that is what you're going to do. And if only I could tell all the animals in your area to stay far away from you and your family because they do not deserve what you are going to do to them. I'm sorry to say that because you could have just had a sanctuary where you rescued animals and took care of animals. But no, you want to exploit them and turn them into products through a violent act of slaughter.
And I have since also had meat, and I have had dairy, and I have tried a really wide variety of foods that I have deprived myself of for the last decade. And I have done that intentionally, and I've done that with, really with a sacred intention.
You have eaten the products of slaughter with sacred intention. That doesn't mean anything. You're just saying words again to help you feel better. You're saying, dear animal, thank you so much for being dead so we can eat you. We appreciate this so much. We're going to enjoy every bite. Imagine if there was a cannibal human who was like, I just killed a human, but let us pray. Thank you so much for your sacrifice. Amen. Yum, yum, yum. This does nothing. This is just purely to make you feel better. Does literally nothing to take away the crime against nature you've committed. It's just words, just worthless words.
And the change I feel in my body, that's the thing. If I had veered away from being vegan and tried animal foods and it's like, oh my God, disgusting, this doesn't work, or felt no difference, then it's like, yeah, I would have immediately gone back because the vegan label is very comfy. It fits me really well. And I've kind of been living that life for so long. But I immediately noticed such a difference in my own well-being. It was immediate.
What was the immediate difference? What was it? You're just saying I felt an immediate difference. What was the immediate difference? What was so night and day between I ate an egg and boom, I turned into Superwoman? What happened? Nothing, just vague words just to make you feel better about you enjoying a delicious egg.
When I eat animal foods, or I introduce more animal foods into my diet, I am more energized. I feel more content. Like throughout the day,
I'm more energized, I feel more content, okay? There's lots of ways you can get energized. Like, sounds like you probably weren't eating enough calories. If you were needing to have 2 breakfasts and things like that, you could have had a more hearty breakfast, as one example. You could have tracked your calories for a while, seeing if you were getting enough calories for your daily diet, which you probably weren't. And feeling more content now that you've got animal products in your diet. What does that mean? I'm so content now that I can just eat whatever I want. Just selfish.
I used to eat breakfast, and then an hour after that, I'm starving.
Yes. So what did you have for breakfast? Tell me.
Like I used to have to eat so many times throughout the day, and I would snack.
Say, I had breakfast. You probably had maybe a small bowl of cereal or something. When I eat breakfast, I eat a massive bowl of oats with cacao, blueberries, big bit of peanut butter, some walnuts. I'm full for hours. If I can do that, and I'm sure I have more caloric needs than you, maybe you should have just changed what you eat, right? Again, this isn't a problem with the vegan diet, it's a problem with how you were eating.
Snack a lot throughout the day, I was the kind of person that could have like 2 breakfasts, no big deal, right? And now it's like I eat a way smaller portion of food, but I'm really full, and I feel full in a different way. I don't have that kind of crash or dip in the afternoon where normally I would need to have something really sweet, or, I would love to have a Swedish fika and like have tons of coffee and eat like cinnamon roll or something. Like I felt like I needed that like kind of sugar to pull me up from the tiredness. Like I don't feel that way anymore. You know, I don't feel that need. Like I need something now. Like I just walk through my day feeling steadier and feeling more whole.
Yeah, because maybe you might be getting enough calories now. That's good that you get enough calories, but wrong place.
Feeling more full, really more full. And I've gained some weight. I mean, that was kind of one of the first, it was really,
You gained some weight. So again, you're clearly eating way more calories now. You gained weight quick. You're eating more calories. You're getting more energy into your body. You were probably under eating before. Yeah, you're putting on weight. You're eating a diet way higher in saturated fat. So of course you're going to be putting on more weight. And these products are higher in calories.
how that happened. And it's funny. And I have a feeling probably it's going to even out, in a while. It's like my body's still adjusting to the changes that I'm making.
It might even out, or you might just keep putting on more and more weight because you clearly don't know about tracking calories and things like that. Otherwise, you'd be more steady.
But the feeling that I almost had is that as soon as I started eating some animal foods, like my body went like, and it's just like holding on to that nutrition that's coming its way.
Yeah, it's holding on to it in fat because you're eating more fat and more calories and not burning enough. That's how it works.
And it's not like now I'm walking through my day regretting that I spent all these years being vegan, or like I did something bad, or no, like I think that, it served me really well in the beginning, but then it kept me really stagnant. And I'm glad I'm where I'm at now. I really am. I really am. And I'm glad I get this opportunity to nourish my family in a different way. Dennis now also is no longer vegan, and he didn't know, like he genuinely didn't know how much he was missing animal foods until he was eating them. Like it was kind of like flipping a switch for him, where all of a sudden,
Yeah, because you started eating steak again, bro. Like, yeah, if steak didn't have murder involved, I would eat steak too. When vegan steak comes out from the cell-based meat, I'll probably eat it because I like steak. I used to love eating ribs and lamb and every single meat. So of course now that it's back on the menu, you're like, woohoo, I didn't realize how much I was missing this. That's mad. That again doesn't mean anything about the lacking components of whether a vegan diet is healthy or not.
all of a sudden we're eating some fish. And I mean, this is a man like born and raised in the Caribbean, born and raised fishing, like eating the freshest fish from the ocean. Like he's used to like fishing and then eating sashimi on the dock, after like stepping off the boat. Like this is a man who has fish in his ancestry, and he hasn't had fish in so long.
We all have fish in our ancestry, like who cares? Who cares what our ancestors did? Our ancestors used to beat women over the head and rape them in the cave. And does that mean we should do it? They're ancestors for a reason, because they're way in the past, before we had ethics, before we could have more conversations, more knowledge, more access to foods that can nourish us. We don't need to eat like our ancestors or behave like them in any way. Our ancestors used to live to 25, 30 years old, These aren't people we should be modeling our diets on or our behaviors on.
He started eating fish again, and he started feeling like, oh, I didn't know. It was like I was missing a whole food group, like my body was.
You were. Yes, you were missing a food group deliberately. You had cut out a food group that you deemed unethical and not in alignment with who you're striving to be as a person, a non-violent, ahimsa person. So yeah, you were missing a food group. It's like a heroin addict saying, whoa, man, I didn't realize how much I miss heroin, but yeah, I missed it. This is nice. It's like, cool, does that mean heroin's good for you just because you missed it heaps? No.
At the heart of this, because at the heart of my veganism was always the ethical treatment of animals, that if you can live a good, healthy life, and what I always thought was a better and healthier lives without animal foods, then why would you eat animal foods? And I still stand by that.
You just nailed it. That is the question to ask, yes. And you said you still stand by that, so let's see where this goes.
The thing was, I wasn't living a better, healthier life. I wasn't feeling better. And I know that now that I've seen the difference.
And again, that could have easily been fixed if you tweaked your vegan diet a little better, instead of going to doctors who are telling you to eat eggs and meat.
It's really hard to know when you're in the middle of it. It's really hard to know when you're in the thick of it. But for me, it wasn't the healthier life. And it feels so strange to say because I was so convinced it was. I really was.
Vegans have better health outcomes across the board. We're likely to live longer, we're likely to have far less diseases, we're likely to have less nutrient deficiencies. So yes, Rachel, you're not an outlier. You also will have had these benefits had you been eating an appropriately planned vegan diet, which me and many other people would have loved to help you with.
And I will never put that kind of label on myself again.
That's just where I want to stop you again and say, listen, you don't need to say with such sureness, I will never put the vegan label on me again. Please keep an open mind to this. You are a person who clearly likes to think about life, continue evolving, this and that. Why would you close your mind to this, something you're so passionate about for so long, right? Something that does make a lot of sense, something that maybe there was just something else that went on, like you weren't eating a healthy vegan diet, which seems pretty clear from everything you've said. So please, Rachel, do not close your mind completely. I've seen you evolve and change and change and change in different ways over the years. Don't make this one of the most important things that you could ever do, being vegan, something that you decide you will never revisit. I'm putting my foot down, I'll never revisit that again. Okay? Keep an open mind. Say, look, who knows what will happen in the future? This is how I feel right now. Maybe more information will come out in the future, etc., etc. There is no shame in, as you've done many times, admitting when you've made a mistake and changing again. So I would just encourage you to keep an open mind and an open heart. Listen, don't close off completely to this just because right now you feel like you're doing the right thing. You never know what the future will bring. And what it may very well bring for you is some serious health issues now that you're eating animal products again, for you and your family.
And where I am now, it's not like I'm going to have a new label and now I'm eating this. It's like, no, now I'm just living my life. Now I'm just living my life and I'm asking myself, how do I feel? Does this feel good? Does this feel bad? Does this make me feel icky? Does this make me feel fuller? Does this make me feel nourished? Does this make me feel healthy? And how do I feel? Like, that is it. I'm done with the label. I'm done with those harsh corners of like, here's what you're supposed to eat. You know, like, no one knows what is best for another person. No one.
Yeah, we do. We do know what is best for people to eat. There's countless studies on this. That is what people dedicate their lives to learning. What is the best fuel for the human body? And it is obvious. The science is done. It is accepted in the scientific community based on countless studies. Healthy, you can be perfectly healthy and have better health outcomes on a vegan diet. We do know this, Rachel. And you and your family aren't special and need to eat eggs. You're no different from me, right? You're a human being. You have a similar digestive tract experience. Maybe there are certain very rare outliers, okay? Like, I'll grant that. There could be some very rare situations where someone may, for some reason, need to eat animal products. You haven't mentioned anything like that in what you've said.
No. And I genuinely believe that the way of life I'm trying to shape now is not only the healthier life for me and for my family, but it's the more sustainable and more earth-friendly way to live as well.
Yeah, it's not actually. It's definitely the more cruel lifestyle, overall leading to more environmental issues, from land clearing, from greenhouse gas emissions, from food wastage, from water wastage. I don't know where you're getting those ideas from.
As a vegan, when we decide to kind of step out of that cycle of life, you know, the cycle of life that our ancestors have been a part of since the dawn of time, which involves death, right? Which involves death. Like, it involves life and it involves death. And we've separated ourselves from that just almost entirely. Like, that doesn't have a place in the world anymore. And I'm starting to wrap my head around the fact that probably that isn't true.
Okay, so Rachel, yes, we have separated ourselves from our ancestors. We have stepped out of that world. As you can see from me speaking to you on my iPhone, with the internet, with lights, with refrigerators, with knowledge recorded, easily accessible with 2 seconds on our phone that goes to satellites. We're totally separate from our ancestors. Yes, their lifestyle did involve a huge amount of death. Just like most people's lifestyle still involves a huge amount of death. There is no glory in living like your ancestors whose lifestyles involve a huge amount of exploitation, suffering, torture, and murder. There's no glory in that. Why are you trying to mimic something they did? Evolve, mate. That's what evolution is. Get beyond that. What is a better world? A world where there's no vegans, or a world where everyone is vegan? No slaughterhouses. Trillions of sentient beings don't get murdered every single year. You know, it's so obvious. Like, it's so shockingly obvious what a better world would be. And yet so many people still seem so confused. And you're just conditioned. You're conditioned. You're brainwashed. Doctors are the same. They confuse you. You didn't go to the right places for your information. And that's what's happened here. Are you a bad person? No, you're a very confused person. And it's very sad, and you've got a big influence, and that makes it even worse.
And I look at, for example, like I have my aunts and my cousins. Our whole life, they had a big farm full of animals, dairy farm, and every animal imaginable. And they always looked at us, like my mom and our side of the family. We were like the city mice, and they were like the country mice, you know? And I always used to think that, oh my God, like their way of life is really outdated. I genuinely believe like how it's so old school. Like they're genuinely living this completely circular life where everything they need comes from what they tend to and what they grow. And there's no waste, like everything is taken care of, everything is organic, like everything is, and they've just...
Yeah, and if you want to live a life like that, you can do that with vegan food. You don't need to have animals on your farm that you kill, that you raise like children to grow to trust you, and then betray them in the most horrible way.
Growing up with these animals, and then at the end of the animal's life, like, yes, they like kill that animal, and then that's the animal that nourishes all of their kids and their whole entire family. And I used to think that that was so heartless and so disgusting, and like, why would you do that? And now I think about it, why would you do that when you could go to the grocery store and buy Beyond Meat?
Yes, that is a great question, Rachel. What happened to you? You were on it. You understood it. Why would you kill this beautiful being, this motherly cow, this amazing creature, this gentle, peaceful being who would never hurt you? And then you would kill her so you can feed your family, when, yeah, you could have fed them with countless different other foods, including a vegan version of the food you're killing them for. You got it, mate. What happened?
And I'm like, the fuck was I eating? Beyond Meat. Like, what is that? What is in that?
What is in Beyond Meat? A lot of plants and fairly healthy products. It's not a horribly unhealthy product at all. It's reasonably good. You're wondering what's in Beyond Meat when it's made of a bunch of plants and things like that, but you're not worried about eating the muscles, the veins, the blood, the tendons of a mother cow who gives birth just like you do after 9 months, who experiences life and joy and happiness and sadness and fear just like you do. You're worried about eating Beyond Meat, which you'll have better health outcomes overall just because it has an ingredients list. There's an ingredients list in what makes up flesh as well. You're not worried about eating this bloody piece of flesh. What would you rather eat raw? Flesh from a cow you just murdered, or a Beyond Burger? What do you think would be better for you? You know, what about raw chicken? How would you feel if you ate raw flesh from a bird? What happens, you know? What about cross-contamination? What happens if you don't clean the board after you're chopping some chicken, chopping some meat, and then you start chopping some veggies? You can die from this, right? You're worried about a Beyond Burger because it's got a list of ingredients.
What was I putting on my plate? Like, what were we eating, thinking that this is the best, this like 29 ingredient, highly processed kind of... What was I putting on my plate? Like, what were we eating, thinking that this is the best, this like 29 ingredient, highly processed, kind of non-food, wrapped in plastic, made somewhere with stuff I can't pronounce. Like, that's this.
Yes, that's what's called Beyond Meat. It is beyond. It is an evolution. It is a growth in the right direction. More environmentally friendly by far. Look up the statistics. More ethical. Nobody gets murdered. And healthier. So, yeah, you just, again, showing that you're very confused.
And then every part of that process, like, it never leaves the farm, right? It's like they do everything.
Who cares if it just stays on the farm? Who cares if they butcher animals on the farm? The murder happens right there. Who cares if it happens 100 miles away? What does it matter? It's here, it's there, it's wrong wherever it is.
And I thought that was so unsustainable. You know, that was like totally wrong. like they're not taking care of the earth. Like eating, being vegan is the only sustainable thing. And I'm looking at that like, what was I thinking? Like how far away from like real earth was I? And we went there to visit them just a couple of weeks ago, and I, for the first time, got to just see them working in their day to day with a whole new set of eyes, with so much reverence. Like without the farmers who grow our food, we have nothing. And I know now the amount of work it takes, like to grow a single tomato, the amount of work that takes. And I want to live that kind of life. Like, of course, I'm most likely not ready to kill an animal yet. Like, I'm not in that place. But maybe one day,
Oh God, Rachel, please don't. Please maintain some purity here. Does it really make any difference if you pay someone to stab an animal in the throat or you do it yourself? Not really, to be honest, but for your own soul, mate, for your own karma, something. Don't go to the point where you are deluding yourself on such a level that you are willing to go and be so violent, so abusive to someone else when you go on and on about the smallest microaggressions and things like that you think are wrong, and yet you're convincing yourself that this is right. You're so lost, so lost. I hope you find your way back very soon. And I hope nobody dies at your hands in the meantime.
Maybe one day, like, we'll live that kind of life on our own homestead where we don't go to the grocery store for anything. And I don't see that now, right? But maybe 20 years from now, like, that's the kind of life that we live. Maybe we do get to live that completely self-sustaining life. And to me, that sounds really beautiful.
Why would you value not going to the grocery store more than not killing a sentient being? That your priorities are way out of whack.
And I know the many vegan people listening to this going like, meat is murder.
Yes, meat is murder.
Death, that is murder, that is unnecessary.
Meat is murder. Let me just put it in a different way. Let's say that I wanted meat from you and I killed you humanely on my home, not 100 kilometers away. Is that murder? Because you don't want to die, right? So me killing you against your will is murder, and doing it for your meat when I could have just eaten what I had for dinner, which was black beans, rice, avocado, and capsicum wrapped up on a delicious tortilla. No, I'd rather murder you. I didn't want to go to the grocery store, so I just killed you. Like, what in the fuck?
And my place in this now is I'm questioning the unnecessary, because I'm seeing now the necessary in my own body, in my own health, and in my daughter's and in my husband's.
What is the necessary? Again, you've been so vague. What is the necessary? Explain it. What nutrient were you deficient in that you couldn't have got through a vegan diet? What? No explanation, nothing clear. Just, I felt better, it was delicious, and it was the yummiest thing I've ever eaten. What necessity?
And anything that brings me a little bit closer to that real intuition, I know is a good thing. And maybe the point of this whole journey...
One other thing about your intuition. Your intuition is not always correct, okay? People feel intuitive about things all the time that turn out to be bad moves. All the time. People get married thinking they're going to be together forever, and then a year later, oh, that was the bad move. We are human beings. We are flawed. We are not perfect at calculating all the factors necessary to make correct decisions all the time. Your intuition might be a good guide sometimes. That's great. Is it a perfect guide you can always follow? No, it's not. You should be aware of that, Rachel, and be open to the possibility that maybe you are a little off on your intuition here based on some bad calculations you've made, such as, I wasn't getting everything I needed from a vegan diet. There was nothing I could do to tweak my vegan diet to make me healthier. I felt really good on an egg, and that must mean something. This egg came to me in a serendipitous way, and I sort of said I wanted it in a serendipitous way, and I see this as serendipitous. These are all not necessarily the correct calculations you could have made to get to this conclusion.
It was just for me to lose the label, right? And yes, we're still eating tons of vegan foods, and it's not like I'm sitting here, breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner, eating steak. Like, no, that's not what our lives.
Yeah, you're not eating steak for breakfast, lunch, dinner. You're having eggs for breakfast. You're probably having chicken for lunch, and you're probably having steak for dinner. Same shit. Cheese, cheese, I'm sure, as well.
We are done with the vegan label, and I'm ready for something that feels more aligned with my ancestry and something more aligned and in tune with the earth and really tending to the land here.
If you want to be in line with your ancestry, get rid of your phone, stop living in your home, get rid of electricity, you know, like all of these things. Why did you choose the thing to be more in line with your ancestry that involves harming other beings? You're like, no, just silly.
And it's been almost an hour. I know I'm going to have so many big follow-up questions to this. There will be a second episode, maybe like a little Q&A. Of course, I'll talk more about this. A book that really was supportive for me is a book called Sacred Cow, especially when it comes to...
Sacred Cow. Okay. So, I have had a debate with this Sacred Cow guy, and he is an absolute joker. The guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I had a discussion with him and a vegan doctor, and he looked like an absolute idiot in many of the conclusions he had come to based on ridiculous calculations. Once again, he's not an intelligent person. He's not somebody who should be trusted when it comes to what he's written in his books. They can be thoroughly and easily debunked. So yeah, you can read the book if you enjoy fiction novels, but he has not said anything credible, and I would welcome any time this guy to have another debate with the doctor that I had him on. He knew how silly he looked. He knew he couldn't answer the questions, and he, in the end just dodged a lot of what we were talking about. So if he's so good, why is he so bad at discussing his views in a way that is convincing? Because his views are bullshit. Horrible book, horrible documentary. Don't waste your time.
For me, just learning a little bit more around veganism and sustainability, because I was really convinced that that is the way, and that cannot be challenged. You know, that's what the media says. That's like science. That's what it is. And I've now come to understand that it's not the only way, and that's most likely for how most people live, not the way. So I really recommend that book, Sacred Cow, especially if you're triggered and you're like, oh no, then it's good. If we have a viewpoint that's really strong and that we really don't want challenged, it's good to read some challenging literature around that, because, it could ingrain you deeper in the viewpoint you already have, or it could open up another perspective. And for me, it opened up a perspective.
Just looking for more confirmation bias. That's why you read this book. You didn't challenge anything. You didn't probably read any debunking articles or anything on it. You just read it like, good, this makes me feel better about what I'm doing. Yeah, vegan isn't the answer.
Perspective that I had never considered. So I really recommend that book. I am really looking forward to just living my life. And
unfortunately, while you live your life, the animals will not be living their life. I hope that you'll give them some consideration in this. Think about what you've seen when animals get slaughtered. Watch it again. You aren't a friend to animals anymore. Don't ever call yourself an animal lover anymore. You cannot say the word ahimsa and it be meaningful at all. And namaste is also a joke that I wouldn't be saying if I was you. How can you say you recognize the spirit in other beings? Like you recognize... It doesn't make any sense to it. I'm saying I recognize the spirit in you is like the spirit in me. Stab, stab, stab. It's like psychopath
and
shit.
Sharing a very unfiltered part of my life, like sharing just the truth the way it is. It has felt weird this past year to... I'm sure you've noticed that I'm not barely sharing, I'm not sharing a lot of cooking anymore. I'm not sharing a lot of food anymore. I haven't spoken about veganism in a very long time. I'm sure you're noticing that. And this is the reason behind that. So I feel good just getting to live a whole truth now. And I feel good getting to evolve into this version of me and just stand really tall in myself. Like I feel really assertive and solid in what's best for me, and grateful that I got to come to this place too. So thank you for your kindness and for your grace and for listening with such an open heart and for being here with me on this journey. How about you? How are your labels?
All right, so that's basically it. So, in conclusion, you didn't talk about your impact of what this will mean for the victims of your choices at all. You didn't mention that at all. Of course not, because if you did, you would sound like a psycho, that you were, you just said, maybe I'll kill them one day. Yeah, you really didn't talk about who they are, what it means that you're going to do this, the actual gravity of the situation. You just laughed your way through, ha ha, la la la, I'm not vegan, just, I didn't like the label, oh, eggs are so yummy, and I just felt so good eating them. Just so disappointing, mate. And look, like, I try to be as nice as possible responding to this and just stick to the facts. I don't, as I've said, see you as a bad person. I think you're a good person who's very misguided right now. I don't know if you would feel comfortable talking to me about this because you may see that I'm quite frustrated right now, but this is a new revelation to me, and I'm mainly frustrated that you would preach this in such a strange, like, it's just such a, like, it would be one thing if you were like, I feel deeply sorry that I have to eat animal products, my health, this and that, there was no other way I could do it, it's so sad, the poor animals. But nah, you just like laugh about it, and that's why I just think you're very confused. So look, anyone can change and anyone can change back. I wish you and your family the best in health and happiness. I hope that you will find your way back to finding health and happiness in a way that isn't at the expense of the health and happiness of others, like you were doing before. And I don't have a lot else to say. I'm open to talking to you or anyone else who's confused by this at any time. So that's it from me. Namaste, ahimsa, peace.